Welcome to another episode of The Closers Club with me, your host, Robert Nichols. On today's episode, I feature a presentation I gave at the Real Estate Wealth Creation Summit hosted by fellow real estate entrepreneur, Dexter Jenkins. On this episode, I speak on why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and I talk about the mindset you need to develop to get rich. I talk about the skill sets you need to develop, and lastly, I talk about the steps you need to take to go from where you are today to where you want to be as quickly as possible. If you're enjoying the content I'm putting out, please be sure to like it, subscribe to it, and share it with the folks who need to hear it most. And without further ado, let's get into the episode, and thank you for tuning in.
How's everyone doing this afternoon? Excellent, guys. It's always tough to go after lunch and after all these great speakers today, but hopefully I can keep you guys up and teach you something that hopefully makes things better. I prepared a presentation. I think you guys can get that up when you can. Is there a clicker? I'll grab that. Perfect. I'll give it my best try here. Excellent, guys. So I'll briefly introduce myself because I've only got 30 minutes and I've got a good amount to cover today. So I'm Robert Nichols, born and raised in Dorchester here in Boston. And, as Dexter has said, we had met many years ago. My father was big into the church. My grandfather was an evangelist, so I grew up in the church as well. And, as I got older and went to college, I was kind of doing my own thing, living my own lifestyle and things. But at the end of the day, when there's a calling on your life, and Dexter and I talk about this, there's no escape. You know, you got to listen to it. It compels you. It pulls you. It drives you. And so that's the chapter I'm in my life now. And I'm really here to share a word with you guys that I hope inspires you, encourages you, and really empowers you to grow. So with that said, I'll jump right into the presentation. I'll just tell you quickly what my background. So I started off in real estate at age 23 buying my first multifamily. I was sharing with Brandon earlier. It was probably the worst investment ever. My then mentor told me not to buy the property, but the stubborn 23-year-old I decided, you know what, I'm going to make it work. And I think, although it didn't turn out the way I expected, I learned a tremendous amount. I wasn't discouraged, and I allowed the failure to propel me forward. And so as I propelled forward, I became a licensed real estate agent. I grew a brokerage to over 60 agents at the time and ended up scaling that. And I still have that business, but my wife and I decided to jump into fix and flips. We did that for many years, and now we transitioned to new construction. And I recently started a hard money lending company. So that's kind of the fast version. As I said, I really want to get into the meat of what I came to discuss today so that we can definitely empower you guys. So when Dexter asked me to speak, I said, Dexter, what do you want me to talk about, right? Because, this is a wealth creation summit. And so he said, Rob, I want you to talk about hard money, and I also want you to speak about how to find deals. And so I said, all right, no problem. But before we kind of can get into that, I think it's really important to speak about mindset. And LaShawn, you really touched on a lot of very similar talking points, and I really appreciated what you shared because it really reinforces what I've learned as well. And so I really want to support everything she said. It is true. And with that, today I entitled this presentation, The Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get Poorer. Has anyone heard that saying before? I think we all have. And for most folks, that actually comes from the Bible. That's Matthew 13:12, right? Verse 12. And it really was Jesus speaking at the time and discussing the principle of a mindset of habits. And so I think a lot of folks hear this and it may trigger, unfairness and things of that nature. I know for me, when I was coming up, it did. I'm like, what does that even mean? But the reality is, right, I think we really have to kind of peel the layers back and start to think, why would Jesus say that at that time? And so what I've interpreted it to mean is that there are habits, there are mindsets, there are thoughts, there are behaviors that will empower all of us to become wealthy, to become rich. And on the flip side of that, if we don't cultivate our minds, if we don't invest in ourselves, if we don't start to adopt the habits that make us rich, we are destined to be poor. And I think it's really important to mention that. And so the question is how, right? How do we start to develop this mindset that is going to manifest the life that we all know we want, we're dreaming for, we're striving for, and we're capable of? And I think the key word there is capability. We all have everything we need. You said it, Dexter. We have all the tools we need inside of us to manifest the life we want for ourselves. And it's just figuring out how to tap into that. And so I'm going to talk about the habits that have served me to really allow me to create a 7-figure business and growing, right? I'm not done. I'm still learning every day, just like all of us in here. So the first thing for me, and this is more recent or a more recent realization, is you've got to get laser clear and laser focused on what your vision is for your life. You need clarity. You need to take that time to sit back and reflect and say, hey, if you want to make $1 million a year, $2 million a year, if you want to turn your annual income into your monthly income, you need to commit to it. You need to make it clear in your mind that this is what I'm going to do. And it either becomes life or death. I know you talked about it earlier. We talked on the podcast about who are you doing it for, right? Who needs you to win in your life? You know, and that's really what it comes down to. Is the first step is getting very clear and taking the time to do that, but commit like you haven't committed before. And if you do that, your goals, you know, all of those things, it'll pull you towards it. It's almost like a magnet attracting you to it. And every day, the first thing you're going to think of when you wake up is whatever that goal you committed to is. So I really encourage everyone to take the time to do that. The second thing is be forever a student. At the end of the day, mastery in my mind is understanding that there's always levels to the game. I'll tell you guys a quick story about my very first flip. I was at the time, was at 28, and I had bought my first property at 23. I was a buy and hold, but I did my first flip at 28. And we made the mistake, me and my former partner, of hiring a handyman to do a GC's job. And I'll tell you this, he didn't last one day. My wife, actually, she wasn't even in the business at the time, but I didn't know who I married, but she's a very skilled woman. I wish she was here today, but she gets a lot of credit. For those of you that know her, you know she doesn't mess around. So we walk into the project, and the very first thing he's doing is painting. And this is a flip, right? You paint last, not first. So as soon as she steps in the door, she said, "What are you doing? You're painting. What is this?" And so, you know, she and him have words, and I say, "Man, you need to go. This isn't working. We're going to go in a different direction." And, you know, the first thing he says to me is, "Who wears the pants in the relationship, you or her?" You know, and this is real. I share this because it's important, right? We made the first mistake hiring this handyman. Now he's disrespecting my wife, and we had to get him on up out of there because it was about to be some problems. But yeah, so he was off the job. I bring in one of my good friends who's a GC the next day. Man, this project got done 2 weeks, banged it out. Me and my partner made $30,000 almost effortlessly, right? And so I share that to say, you know, we weren't skilled. We learned very quickly that we needed to move up, but you know, compare a handyman to a GC to someone who's building architects and so an architect, building skyscrapers, right? Like you've got levels to how you operate and how you work, and so there's always another level for you to learn and to get to. The minute you stop striving, the minute you start growing, is the minute you go the other way. The minute you begin to fail, and so that's why I really want to encourage you to always be a student and commit. Again, you're gonna hear that word a lot, to educating yourself each and every day. It's super, super important. A general contractor. My apologies. Yeah. So GC is a general contractor. A handyman, I think that's self-explanatory, right? We all know what handymen are. We need those guys too. Just not on your flips. Yeah. Just not on your flips. That's right. The second thing is our environments. And it's a theme you guys have heard today, and I just can't stress it enough. You need to surround yourself with the people doing the things you want to do. You know, Pastor Dexter here talked about his program, his mentorship program. He's creating an environment. He's creating a network that you can tap into to really get the support you need to grow your business. Over the last year, I joined the mastermind, and I'll tell you, it has been life-changing for me. You know, and I'm going to share some of the stories from that as I continue here, but this has been one of the keys to my growth. And most importantly, what ended up happening through joining the mastermind and being pulled in the right direction, it pulled me away from the people that were pulling me in the wrong direction. And that is just such a critical piece of success. Our environments will truly predict how far we can go in life, our success in life, our income potential. And so I really, again, want to make it clear that you must, at all costs, surround yourself with folks who are going to pull you to success. And you don't want to hold them back. You want to be striving for success at the same time. And together you'll win. The other piece of this process, and again, successful folks know this, you have to be able to accept failure. You know, all my flips weren't wins, right? I had my second flip we jumped into head first, and it was a $200,000 loss of money that wasn't mine. And we had to figure out a way to pay it back, and we did. But I think one of the lessons I learned from that, one of my friends asked me when it all happened. He was my tax accountant at the time. He's like, "Rob, what are you going to do? Are you going to quit?" And I don't know where this answer came from. I said, "Man, that was my Harvard education right there." You know, and I think it's important that we have to have that mindset that failure is a necessity. The more you push yourself up in trying to strive for a goal that you haven't achieved before, the more likely you're gonna encounter that resistance, those challenges. And this is where mentorship comes into play. This is where support system comes into play. When you're facing those challenges that seem like they're insurmountable and they seem like they're hard, but at the end of the day, there is a way through them because so many others have come before us that have been able to overcome those challenges. And so with that, I think that it's very important that we accept failure. We don't allow it to defeat us, but we look at it as a stepping stone. The other piece to this is self-discipline. And I think the biggest thing is you have to commit to letting your actions do the talking, right? It's very easy to get all pumped up today, to have all this enthusiasm, right? About I'm going to be a real estate investor. I'm going to build wealth. I'm going to grow. But sometimes it's hard to sustain it. And I think that's where, again, being tied to a network of people who are like-minded will help support that. But even still, eliminating those distractions from your life and committing to the goal that you set for yourself and being clear on where you want to go is super important. And so, every day, one of the things, I have a routine, and I think that's another thing, really developing habits that you follow that support your success. Every morning you spend time in Bible study or meditation or prayer. Every morning you commit to educating yourself. I have some of my team members here today. We have an accountability group, and that's a big part of how we support each other. We all know, all right, this is what my goals are for the week personally and professionally. We come together, we kind of talk through it. And if you fail, we're not here to chastise you. We're here to support you, to say, hey, let's get back at it. It happens. We need to just keep going. We got your back. And that's really important to find people that are going to be in your corner, when you face that adversity and sometimes face these challenges here. So in speaking on how the rich use hard money, something that I'm always reminded of when I'm dealing with investors at many different levels. In my career, I've talked to thousands of investors, both as a real estate broker, both as a hard money lender, and also as an investor, broker, and lender. And, I've noticed that there's just a huge gap between the way the rich look at money and the way that, the poor or the newer investors kind of look at things, right? It's a very different lens. And Robert, you shared a lot earlier. I really appreciate you sharing that, becoming your own bank and infinite banking. I mean, that's a perfect example of a strategy that wealthy people know about that very few people understand. And even if you don't have the money to execute on something like that right now, even if you just start, you've got to start having the mindset that this is a vehicle that I need to invest in, that I need to use in order to create the life I want to create for me and for my family. And, that's what I see when I talk to borrowers who are looking to leverage hard money, who are experienced. They know that this is just one leg of the journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So they'll use our capital very short term, get into a deal, but they have a very clear exit, and they've already projected into the future what their returns are going to look like, despite paying a 12% rate or 13% rate. Now let's go to the other side of the coin, right? These are a lot of new investors who come in. They'll hear 12%, 13, and the sticker shock, like, oh my God, what? This is crazy, right? And they'll try to nickel you and dime you down. And like, listen, before we have this conversation, what is your end goal? Let's look at the goal, right? Because it's all about finding those pieces of the puzzle, finding the vehicles that are going to empower you to get to where you want to be as an investor and to get to where you want to be as a wealth creator. And so a lot of times when I have those conversations, and I think that's what separates me as a lender, I'm really able to coach them and provide a strategy, right? As opposed to just saying, oh, it doesn't work, I'm done. I'm not about that, right? I came from nothing. And a big part of why I do what I do is to really empower people to achieve wealth, because we all are capable. As I said before, it's just knowing how to do it is the key. I saw so many young brothers I grew up with dead in jail that really, they had so much untapped potential. And it destroys my heart to know that they never were able to fulfill it. And so, that's really why when I work with folks in the business, it's important that I show them a path that gets them where they want to be and really allows them to feel empowered and to leverage the tools they have to create the life for themselves that they want and the life for their family, that they want for their families as well. So hard money terms, and again, I kind of touched on this quickly. Yes, the rates are 12 to 13%. Typically, we're between 2 and 3 points, and I have some of my team members in the room as well that you can talk to get more details on this. the term. So how long are these loans typically? They're typically 12 to 18 months. And then minimum down, we require 15 to 20% down, and closing it as fast as 3 days. Now, another tool that wealthy people ask me about in hard money is an interest reserve. A lot of folks may not know what that is. We call it our fix and flex program. And essentially, it allows you to leverage hard money where you can get into a deal, you put your down payment down, but we'll create a separate loan to cover your mortgage payments so that you don't have to make the payments out of pocket. Doesn't always work. The deal has to meet certain parameters in order for that to us to be able to put that into the deal. But at the end of the day, I always try to add that piece because that also takes a lot of stress out of becoming an investor and a lot of stress out of managing your deals and having to figure out, all right, how am I going to make the monthly payment, manage the project? We want to take a little bit of the stress off your plate. So that's something else that I think is important for folks to look at. Hard money advantages, so the big thing with hard money, it allows you to get into deals without having to have the experience or credit that a bank will be looking for. Obviously, with going to a bank and trying to get a fix and fix loan, they're typically not going to be very receptive to you. They're going to want you to say, what is this for, fix and flips? Oh, we don't do that, right? And they don't have anything for you. There's nothing else, because, again, it's added risk. You don't have a track record. And that's something with hard money. We really try to coach you to find the right contractor, find the right team to be able to qualify for the capital. Currently, effects on the real estate market and interest rates. With us, our rates aren't really impacted much by the market. If there's a big shift, we may move down. There's been, really not much moving in the last year, so our rates are pretty straightforward. And then right now, one of the big things, biggest crises facing the real estate market is a lack of inventory. And so everyone's kind of feeling that pinch. And so, that's something that I'm going to be talking about jumping into deal finding here. But, definitely there are deals out there. You just have to know how to find them. So that's what I'm saying. Learn how to find off-market deals like a pro. One of the things that I was talking to Brandon earlier, back in 2021, we had an investor my team and I were working with that needed to spend about $100 million in 1 year. You don't hear that type of those type of numbers every day, but this was a bigger institutional investor. And so what I ended up doing, I had to really figure out how to find deals for this guy, for me and my team, to be able to really capitalize on that relationship. And so I put to work a lot of the skills I've learned over the years on how to find deals. But I think something I want to share about the importance of really developing these types of skills is, I remember the very first time I closed my first $1 million real estate transaction when I was an agent early in my career. And I felt depressed. And so you hear that, you close your first $1 million deal, why would you be sad? Why would you be down? And what I realized in that moment is that I didn't know how to get another one. So it wasn't sustainable, right? I had a big windfall on I think I made like $30,000 at the time. And, that was a lot of money for me at that age. And so I had gotten lucky in my mind because one of my friends had referred that lead to me. And so one of the things I'm really big on is self-sustainability. You don't want to make big sums of money and not know how to continue to grow, right? That's just not, nobody wants that lifestyle. And so what I did was I said, you know what? If nothing else comes out of this, I'm going to make sure I learn how to find deals on demand. And so anyone I've coached, mentored, they know what tools are out there. They know the process to consistently find off-market deals that fit the criteria. And so that's really what I'm kind of going to go through now as well, as far as the different tools that are available for folks to be able to do this. So list stacking, the first thing when it comes to finding deals, you got to identify what your strategy is, what types of properties you're looking for, so that you can create a list that has those properties. And we call it list stacking. So for example, we'll create a high equity list, and that's a list of owners who have at least 50% equity in their properties and have owned them for more than 10 years. Once you create that list, you can skip trace the list. And skip tracing allows you to get someone's phone number, their email, and pretty much all types of information on them, guys. If you think your information is private, I encourage you to go to True People Search right now and look up your phone number and watch what happens. You be amazed. The last few addresses, and this is free. This is like on the internet. You don't have to pay anything for this, right? So this is something that a tool we use as investors to really track people now. We're all pretty much private investigators these days. Trust me, I showed my wife. She didn't believe me. So I put her number in, and it had all types of stuff. She was like, what? This is crazy. How do I get this off of here? I was like, I don't know. Good luck. Another tool we use is CallRail. CallRail is great because we use a lot of virtual assistants to make calls. But also, if you want to have a separation between your regular cell phone number and have a system, a software you can use to keep things just on the investment side, it's a great tool. And it also allows you to keep track of anyone calling for you. REI Reply is another tool that we use to send text message campaigns. It's also a CRM. Something that people don't realize when it comes to sourcing deals, if you use a number that isn't registered with the, I think it's the FCC, that number will be ghosted, so none of your messages will go through. And I see investors time and time again try to take this stuff on their own. And I'm telling you, like, it's better to go with a tried, tested, and proven team to help you with this stuff, because you could put the best effort into it, but with the wrong messaging or the wrong tools or not using them appropriately, you might be just literally throwing money away. So it's very, very important. CRMs, we use Google Drive and Calendar, but there's plenty of CRM. That's a customer relationship management tool. And then, how to hire VAs, and that's a big one. I've hired a lot of virtual assistants from all over the world, but VAs come in handy when it comes to doing a lot of these tasks. I think that's more advanced, and that's before you hire a virtual assistant, you really need to know how to do the job yourself. You really do. And I can't stress that enough. I remember the very first VA I hired. I went on Upwork.com. I hired this girl. Her name was Jazzy Lynn from the Philippines. Never forget it. And Jazzy Lynn, I looked at her profile. Everything was tip top. She worked with this real estate guy, trained at Keller Williams and all of this. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I got the best VA ever, right? So I hire her. We get on the first call. She's like, all right, what do you want me to do? I said, I don't know. What do you normally do? She's like, what? She quit. Within 5 minutes, she was gone. She's like, this guy don't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? And so it's like having that high power sports car, but you don't know how to drive it. It's good to look at it. It's beautiful. You try to get in and drive, it's just not working because you don't know, right? And so I had to really get clear on that. And after that, I got my act together pretty quickly. And like, all right, now I know what to do. So I created a nice list, a nice flow for them to follow, showed all the tools that we had. And the next one I hired, he was with me for over 4 years. And so, again, failure, right? It's a great teacher. But I just wanted to definitely share that story because they'll play you real quick on there if you don't know what you're doing. Excellent. And so the other quick thing with this, right, my team and I, we haven't really offered this yet, but we're going to be offering a workshop at the end of May, really teaching these fundamentals. And I'm doing this primarily because for years, we kind of been working in a silo, like working in a bubble, and not really opening this up for other people to be a part of this. And there's a lot of skills and tools and training we've learned along the way. So we'll be hosting a workshop at the end of May. Date hasn't been decided yet, but if anyone's interested in learning more about prospecting, if you go onto my Instagram, at Robert L. Nichols, follow me and DM me, Prospecting Playbook, we'll definitely get you more information as we're going to be rolling this out. Because like I said, it'll be a 2-day probably workshop where we're really going to go deep on what it takes to build a prospecting machine that gives you the deals you want, especially nowadays. It's way more competitive. We all know there's no inventory out there. So you've got to be aggressive at creating a system that allows you to get the results you're looking for your real estate business and wealth creation. This is how to connect with me. I have a small group I run called the Insiders. It's basically a WhatsApp group. And then we also have an email list where we talk. It's $49 a month, but you get access to me through the chat. It's on my website, Robert Nichols Companies /insiders, RLN Companies, /insiders. But there's some of the members I know watching on streaming. Shout out to Rudy and some of the other guys I know you guys are on today. Appreciate all you guys' support, and hopefully you're getting something from this event today. But no, that's one way to connect with me there. We got YouTube. I'm on IG. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on all those platforms, guys. And that pretty much wraps up the presentation. But I wanted to leave you guys with one idea, one concept I learned this week. So as I mentioned, I'm a part of a mastermind. And one of the great things about that group is everyone is striving for greatness. And honestly, it's really helping me elevate my game. I'm learning a ton. This past week, we had a former executive coach of Steve Jobs speaking with us, which was very, very powerful. I mean, the guy he blew my mind, and there was something he shared that I think was very empowering for me. And it really, I think, speaks on the mindset we have to have in order to win, in order to be successful, and in order to sustain our growth over time. His name's John Matone, and what he shared was, he said, be careful with your thoughts because they ultimately become your thinking. Excuse me. Be careful with your thoughts because they become your words. Be careful with your words because they become your actions. Be careful with your actions because they become your habits. And be careful with your habits because they become your character. And be careful with your character because it becomes your destiny. So I really want to leave you guys with that today. Thank you very much, Dexter. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.